heard tell that this was going to happen, and it has actually officially happened now. The CDC is continually relaxing their guidance around protecting ourselves from COVID-19 and other such illnesses. It really seems like they're dropping the last C. You know, it's the Center for Disease Control. Lots of folks are saying that they just need to go ahead and drop the last C and stop pretending, because truly are not on the side of controlling disease at this point. They're just like continuously relaxing their guidance about how to protect yourself to the point now that they've basically dropped any suggestion that you should isolate. A while ago, they were like, oh, if you're testing positive for COVID, you should self-isolate for 5 days and then you can go back to work. Despite the fact that many people, most people in fact, are still like actively COVID positive and spreading it at that point. They're actively infectious still. So this is what their current guidance is, like with absolutely no evidence to back them up. If you're enjoying this video, hit the like button, maybe subscribe, hit all notifications if you want. Feel free to check out the links in the description. You might find some merch you like, or you can hit up the Patreon to support the content and find free stuff. They've just gone, okay, look, for CDC recommended updates, staying up to date with vaccination, great. Practicing good hygiene by covering coughs and sneezes, washing or sanitizing hands often, and cleaning frequently touched surfaces. Notice that they don't list masking in any of their core prevention strategies. Taking steps for cleaner air, such as bringing in more fresh outside air, purifying indoor air, or gathering outdoors. So in their 3 main bullet points of how to protect yourself, they don't mention, for prevention, they don't mention masking at all. Great, amazing. And then they continue on by saying, when people get sick with a respiratory virus, the updated guidance recommends that they stay home and away from others. For people with COVID-19 and influenza, treatment is available and can lessen symptoms and lower the risk of severe illness. The recommendations suggest returning to normal activities when, for at least 24 hours, symptoms are improving overall, and if a fever was present, it has been gone without use of a fever-reducing medication. So it's like they're just suggesting you go back to normal activities. The CDC official guidance now is it's fine if you have symptoms actively of the illness, and it's fine if you're testing positive for the illness. You should resume normal activities so long as you're seeing improvement in the symptoms. If your cough is a little bit less bad than it was yesterday, that's an improvement. And even if you are testing positive and likely still highly infectious, they're like, yeah, go ahead. Oh, they do also say once people resume normal activities, they are encouraged to take additional prevention strategies for the next 5 days to curb disease spread, such as taking more steps for cleaner air, enhancing hygiene practices. Oh, here we finally mention wearing a well-fitted mask, keeping distance from others, and or getting tested for respiratory viruses. So it's like, you're not even recommending that they get tested for respiratory viruses, except like, oh, if you want to, after you're done with your initial day of being sick at home. So obviously this is an issue because it lessens your ability to argue that you should be able to stay home sick, no matter what your job is. Even if your job is to work with the public and you would be actively making people sick, this is going to chip away at your ability to argue that you should be able to take the sick time. Even if it's unpaid sick time, sometimes your job will fire you instead of giving you unpaid sick time. It's like literally not even costing them anything. Yeah, lots of us are still quarantining as much as possible anyway because people didn't listen in the first place, much less now. Like, it's, you know, if you're, like, we already have a tendency to downplay our sicknesses. I know some people who caught COVID recently because they were attending a funeral and in someone's private home, someone who didn't even live there visited briefly and was like, oh, I just have allergies, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then there you go. 2 of my friends positive for COVID while dealing with a death in the family, like, because people just are not considerate at all. If the next pandemic disease is something stronger than COVID, it will end human society. It's certainly gonna, I mean, maybe not end human existence, but human society for sure. I thought the dumbest people involved here were the anti-mask / pro-COVID crowd, but apparently those people are the ones the CDC is catering to. Living in our country feels like watching stupid people run circles around even stupider people. Yeah, it's like, why are we setting policy based on the lowest common denominator? You know, why is it that we're setting laws and setting policy on this based on what like the worst among us want to do. This is not based on any real data and evidence. Like, realistically, most people are infectious for 10 days. 80% of people test positive for 5 days after symptom onset. Only 30% of people who test positive have fever. Presence of symptoms is an unreliable indicator of infectiousness because lots of cases are asymptomatic. Asymptomatic cases represent 20 to 40% of all infections. We can't know specifically because most people are not testing. Individuals can be infectious before the onset of symptoms, so there's such a thing as pre-symptomatic as opposed to asymptomatic. And yeah, so most people are still infectious at that 10-day mark. And then it's unclear because there's a variation between individuals as to when they become non-infectious. But people can be infectious for up to 2 weeks. But yeah, according to the CDC, go back to work, you pig. Go back to work, you disgusting, useless thing. Like, that's what the CDC says. I guess their suggestion could be taken as, like, if your symptoms are getting worse, then you should be isolating, but they don't specify an amount of time. So there are going to be people who just don't observe any kind of isolation because the CDC doesn't have a specific number. Or basically they've lowered the guidance. You only have to quarantine for 1 day. And then it doesn't matter really like how sick you are. Like, just go out there and start sneezing on people is the official CDC guidance. It's going to take a really long time for this illness to run through the whole population and kill all of the people that it's going to kill. It's going to be so weird. When this whole thing is done, we're going to have way fewer humans. And of those few humans, there's going to be a big group of them, I guess, who are going to be like super immune resilient to COVID. I mean, or they're going to be super disabled or some combination of the two, I guess. And then there's going to be people like me who didn't catch COVID over and over again, but who then have to try to navigate a world where there are hundreds and maybe even thousands of different strains of COVID that I have to be like trying to avoid all of them. It is a crazy time. Next pandemic disease needs facial pustules in order to be taken seriously, apparently. No kidding. Based on the response to monkeypox, like, we actually cracked down on that. It has to have some kind of visible weeping sore on the outside of your body. It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter that there's a huge number of people experiencing just straight up organ failure. It's happening on the inside of your body. Therefore, it's not terrifying, apparently. I just treat everyone like they have COVID. I make it weird looks for masking in public still, but who cares what they think? Yeah. I have actually started wearing, oh, maybe they're not on my desk. I've started wearing like fake glasses outside, out in public, because that little pocket of air behind your glasses can prevent you from catching COVID in your eyeballs, because you can catch COVID in your eyeballs. But Lux, aren't you comforted by the fact that corporate profits are doing really well? Oh, it's so wonderful. Yeah, I have this morning newsletter that goes to my email inbox early in the morning, and I'm reading it and I'm like, oh, the stonks went up again. Wow. Man, we need better marketing for vaccines. Like, it makes you get to your perfect weight, and for men, the perfect size. Bonus, bonus, bonus. COVID really took our society's ableism and put it under a high-power microscope for everyone to see. It's so obvious. The fact that these people are genuinely going, oh, it doesn't really matter. The only people who die from COVID anymore are people with pre-existing conditions and the old people. And it's like, okay, good to know as someone with a pre-existing condition that my life is just worth sacrificing for the sake of the economy. Cool. Love that for me. Much love to my patrons, especially Tiago Nascimento, Mersh Rolvog, Michelle Frateroli, Amanda B., Wellington Marcus, Michelle Winter, Danielle McDonald, DZXN, Suzanne Maynard, Spooky Heather Sylvia, Jamie Jam, Pasnell Infinity, Nova, Sojo, Elizabeth Bartell, Ella V. Nobody, Kevin Young, Sarah A., Athiet, Celeste, Desi Quiche, Liam Hodgson, and Mr. Atheist.